they relieved Paris, and Eisenhower, by this point, by the way, was made Supreme Commander of all European forces. He was literally called Supreme Commander. It's a great title if you can get it. I am Supreme Commander of Room 137.
Put that on your resume.
That's a good bullet point, right?
Supreme Commander of
Supreme Commander, invaded Europe, won Europe war.
So they
Desired position, stock clerk at Kmart.
So they came in the north?
They came in through, actually it was much further south than people thought, in Normandy. And the one part is it's going to be, there weren't as many German troops. It was much more fortified than north. And it was going to be an easier trip to Paris. Paris was liberated, and Eisenhower makes an awesome decision. He calls up Patton and he says, it's time. And Patton gets his guys back. Now remember during World War I, when a battle would last for 7 months and they would take 300 yards? Patton was averaging almost 30 miles a day he was taking back. He was on a mission, and he was just rolling. In fact, he could have kept going. They finally gave him less gas than he needed, and he was having to stop to fight without gas with his tanks. But he was pretty amazing. Problem for Patton is he just opened his mouth too much, and he kept spouting off and would get in trouble. In fact, he said something at the end of the war that got him in real trouble. He said, they said, do you think we're going to fight the Soviets? And he said, yeah, I think we're going to fight the Soviets, and I think we ought to fight them now. Our troops are here, their troops are here, this needs to happen now. And the American diplomats were like, no, let's not. But Patton wanted in. Like, he was like, we just got done beating the Germans. I already beat them once in World War II, or World War I. I'm here, my troops are here, I don't lose. It's time to get this done. And Truman was like, can you please shut up? And he was taken from command. And by the way, and it's ironic, Patton fought in the front lines forever, fought in 2 world wars, helped win 2 world wars, and died in a car crash. Died from a car crash. He died. He got hit in a car by a car. He was actually, his body was hung up on pins to make sure he could breathe and stuff. And he died a year later. So he died in 1946, although he was only 60 something, still pretty young for a general, and he died in a car wreck. You'd like somebody who's like Patton to go out like. Yeah, like swinging from a vine, saving a busload of nuns with an Uzi or something, right? Yeah, that's right. But no, car crash. All right, so now we have the invasion of Germany, and I don't want to say the poor Germans, but the poor Germans were getting bombed basically night and day. And they're squeezing in. One of the most famous battles is the Battle of the Bulge, which you're never going to see on a test, but it's a great story. The Battle of the Bulge, it's right here. It's considered a tie. The 101st Airborne was surrounded. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Patton. 101st Airborne was surrounded by the Germans and just getting knocked to death. And Patton, the whole American army, they couldn't get there because of all the snow. And he wanted to save them, and they couldn't go unless there was air cover, right? They couldn't get there and fight the Germans without air cover. And so they're holed up in this place, waiting to leave. And you know what Patton did? Patton called, every unit has a pastor, right? Has like a chaplain. He called the chaplain in, and he gave him an order. I want you to pray to God that it stops snowing so I can go kill Germans. And the chaplain said, in all respect, sir, I don't feel comfortable praying to my God so we can go kill more of our fellow humans. And Patton said, I don't care what you feel. Go write me a prayer, and you've got 1 hour. And the guy went and wrote a prayer for it to stop snowing. Patton got on his knees, read the prayer. It stopped snowing a little bit later. Patton gave the guy a promotion, and they went and they freed the 101st Airborne. How ridiculous is all that, right? Like, it's so ridiculous, it can't, like, you can't even make this stuff up, right? Who does that? Patton does that. So, the invasion of Germany, on both sides, you've got the Soviets coming in this way, the Americans and Brits coming in this way, the Americans coming in this way. The Italians have long since dropped out of the war. Mussolini was executed. And when he was executed, I usually show you guys this too. Maybe I will if we get ahead of this. We don't see the execution. You know what they did though? They strung him and his mistress upside down naked in the square, and everybody spit on him and kicked him. Vengeful Italians. They were done with him, and Hitler was watching this, right? Hitler was watching this, and they were like, God, if he did this to Mussolini, imagine what they're going to do with my body. Which is one reason why he committed suicide. He did not. He wanted to go out on his own terms, right? He didn't want to happen. What happened to Mussolini happened to him. Okay? So that's the invasion of Germany. Now let's look at, we'll get to the end of both wars in a minute. Let's get to the Pacific. Alright? On the Pacific. A couple battles I want to talk about. One is the Battle of Coral Sea. The Battle of Coral Sea is not a turning point, but it's a pretty good one because it's the first time we didn't lose. We had lost the Philippines, Wake Island, Guam, Saipan. This is the first time we didn't lose. And it's way down here. And the Coral Sea is also important. In fact, it's a world first. It's the first time in the history of the world, and this is actually what I tested for. First time in the history of the world where it was a naval battle and no ships saw each other. It was a naval battle while no ships saw each other. How could that possibly be?
Aircraft carriers.
Because now you've got aircraft carriers and carrier groups, and so you've got planes that are trying to shoot, they're trying to destroy the ships instead of other. It used to be, battleship over here, destroyer, line up, and keep pounding each other until somebody sinks.
Like the game.
Just like the game, right? But now you've got aircraft carriers, and they're miles and miles and miles apart, and they're bombing each other like crazy. If you're in the Navy, what are you trying to protect? In a carrier group, what are you trying to protect? The carrier, right? I don't understand why it's called battleship. Why is it not called carrier? So you're trying to protect the carrier because that's where you're able to attack from.
Is there an aircraft carrier on Battleship?
Yes!
It's the biggest boat.
It's the biggest boat! No, I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at the game. Why would you have an aircraft carrier but then call it battleship? You sunk my battleship. Fine, I've got an aircraft carrier. That's what I would say.
My aircraft carrier.
I'm spinning all over the place, I'm sorry.
Hold on, my favorite's a submarine.
Are there submarines?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a submarine and there's a little boat.
Did you have the electronic one or the regular one?
Both. They both have a submarine.
Because I had an electronic one, like I got older and I used to always play the other one. See, the other one was ridiculous though, because if you were dishonest, you'd be like, miss? And you'd change where it was at, right? You couldn't do that. In fact, that's why I think they have an electronic game. Because so many people cheated in Battleship, because the whole game was you couldn't look to see where they were, right? Because then you'd bomb them. So since they couldn't look, they'd be like, D6. And you'd be like, miss. And then like I would have things and people would be like, Corey, I have hit everywhere on your pad. You can't have never been hit. Or so like there'd be a boat like right here, and he'd hit one here, I'd be like, hit. But then I would move it this way, and he would be here, I would say, miss. And then I would move it back this way, and they would hit here, I'd say, miss. And so they would have this, and they would like that, and I'd be like, miss, 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 miss. Like, this is impossible. Right. Right. They can't go diagonal. I saw it, F. Right. That was the worst. All right. The only game that ever had to be revamped because cheating was so rampant. Okay, but then we get to the turning point. The turning point battle was Midway. Now, one thing that America had going for us was we could read the codes of the Japanese. We broke their code. We were reading their mail. And what we had going for us was that we could read their mail, and what they had going did not have is they couldn't break our codes. Why could they not break many of our codes? Do what? Because they were in Navajo. There were plenty of Americans who spoke Japanese, and there were plenty of Japanese people who spoke English. But there weren't any Japanese people who spoke Navajo. And so what happened was, let's say we have a dude right here. Here's a guy. We'll call this guy Kevin. All right, Kevin, you're right here, right? And then you've got Pearl Harbor over here. We'll call this guy Nick. All right, Nick and Kevin working together. So what happens is, everybody has their codes, right? Steamed broccoli tastes good on Thursdays means we're invading Midway, on the 22nd of April, whatever, right? I don't know why I chose Earth Day for that, but whatever. All right. Or is it 20th of April?
It's the 22nd.
I think so. So what happens is you've got Nick right here, and you've got a Navajo dude who apparently in this is way bigger than Nick. And so Nick has what he wants to say. He puts it into the code that the Navy has agreed on. He gives the Navajo guy. The Navajo guy in Navajo sends it to a different Navajo guy who's really big over here, and the Navajo guy then translates it into English, and then this English intelligence officer translates the code back to what it actually means. The Japanese could break it, because Navajo is an indigenous language. So we could read their mail, and we knew they would be invading Midway soon. Midway is right here, and it's on their way to Honolulu, and their theory was, if we can break Midway, right, we've already done all this stuff, this might make them surrender. And we knew there were a bunch of ships coming in from this direction. So what did America do? What would be the smart thing to do? You want to flank them from this side, but remember that all these carrier groups, there are 4 carrier groups coming. They all have what are called scouts, right? This is before everybody had radar and satellite technology. Now we just look on a computer and see. But everybody sends planes out in different directions. So what we did to make sure that we didn't let the Japanese know we knew what was happening was we sent a couple planes going this way to let their scouts see our planes, right? By the way, pretty ballsy of the people who are like, okay, I'll see let the whole Japanese Navy see me and go after me, little plane, right? But they keep going after them, and we come around, we sunk 3 carriers and damaged 1 more. You know how long it takes to build 3 carriers? Like a month. Or more. Or 20. So now, and that doesn't include the fact that we're going to start bombing the snot out of them in about 2 more years. So now the Battle of Midway is a turning point, and after that we start moving forward. We have crippled part of their navy. Yamamoto was on the aircraft carrier that was crippled and had to, scoot back to Japan, barely making it. 3 aircraft carriers, plus destroyers and battleships and cruisers. And America starts their campaign of what's called island hopping. And so they would take a small island, and instead of defeating all these little islands, they would hop to another one. Then hop to Guam, right? Take back Guam. Hop to Iwo Jima. Right? And what's the whole point of island hopping? The closer you get to Japan, what can you do?
The more you can bomb them.
You can bomb them like crazy, right? The closer you get to Japan, the more you can bomb them. And so we go from, Thai Coral Sea, we win Guadalcanal, which JFK was near there in the Battle of Leyte Gulf, which is right there. That was where Kennedy was. And we start bombing. We take back the Philippines, and we start moving towards Japan. The Battle of Okinawa and Iwo Jima. You've probably seen that real famous thing of the people putting the flag in the ground at Iwo Jima. You know that's also staged. Did you know that was staged? They actually did that, and it was in the ground. And it's either a Time reporter was like, that was awesome, can you do that again? They took the flag out, and they posed doing it again. So the thing that we see at the Iwo Jima, like the Marine Memorial, that's actually staged. The real version we didn't catch on camera. Several of those guys who were doing that, by the way, went on and died. Do what? I didn't watch it. I don't watch military movies. They're so emotional.